Hi y'all. Well, I had a request to do a video about keeping it together, and it's kind of a hard request because I don't claim to be an expert at keeping it together, but I do have a long history of having to keep it together because I really didn't have much of a choice, and I'm not going to tell you all this stuff because I want you to feel sorry for me. But I guess I'm just going to tell you some stuff about my life just so that you'll maybe see why I think I'm dealing with this okay. You know, I'm doing the best I can with what's going on in this world. So when I was a kid, I was born, and my father has something wrong with him. I would say it's like borderline personality disorder, some sort of PTSD from Vietnam. And living with him was like living with a stick of dynamite. Like, that was, you never knew when someone was going to just light this stick of dynamite for no reason. And so my mom, as soon as my sister was born, I was 3.5. My mom and my sister kind of sealed off in like a world of their own. And then there was me, and there was my father. And my father being the most oppressive person, and he used to do stuff like strip us naked and beat us with dowels and stuff like that. I mean, he used to hide everything in the house that I thought he might be able to hit me with. Like one time he hit me so hard with a brush, a hairbrush, that he broke the hairbrush, and I was about 7. So that's just kind of what I grew up with. And then his brother is a paranoid schizophrenic. He is in the insane asylum for strangling my grandma. He almost killed her. And then he attacked my father with an axe. And he was in and out of the insane asylum, for as long as I've been alive. I've never known him to be sane. And he lived with my grandparents, and my dad worked for my grandfather. My grandfather was an amazing man. He and my other grandfather were like the last real men in this family. And so my dad worked for him, and so we had to go over to the farm all the time. We lived in a separate house, but I ended up at my grandparents' house probably 4 or 5 times out of the week, right? And things were bad, My uncle was always delusional and laughing in the bathroom, and him and my father would fight and be screaming at each other, and we'd be eating lunch. And my dad would come in from plowing the fields, and my uncle would freak out about all the germs that was on him because he'd be in the breezeway, and he'd already have his boots off, but he was covered in dust when you're out plowing and stuff. And my uncle would just start screaming and saying, and they'd be like, "Fuck you, and I'll see you in Davy Jones' locker." I mean, who the hell even talks like that, right? It's like a fucking movie. And me and my sister, we used to hide under the table. We used to hide under the table during lunch when my father and my uncle, crazy Uncle Robert, would be fighting. I mean, and then my uncle, he hated girls, and he would say stuff like, "You see that peach tree out there? See why it's dying? Because there was a girl that rubbed up against it." I mean, he just, this is back in the time when dynamite, you could still buy it, He would buy dynamite, and he was collecting dynamite in the barn because paranoid schizophrenics, they always believe that, someone's out to get them. And he strangled my grandmother because he thought she was poisoning him. I don't know, it was just a mess. So, when I was 5 years old, I knew that I had to leave, right? I already knew, I had the thought in my head the first day of kindergarten, actually before that I had to leave. Right? I was going to make good grades, and I was going to get the F out of Dodge. Okay? And that's what I did. I mean, I didn't even go to my high school graduation party. I was done. I moved out. Went to college. And I don't know, it's been hard, and I ended up having to go to West Point. So my mom's side of the family isn't much better, except for they have money. And they use that money to order you around, tell you don't deserve anything nice, that kind of shit. So when I was 18, I already had a scholarship to go to San Angelo State, even though my uncles had promised to pay for me to go to college, get in anywhere, go to Harvard, wherever, we'll pay for it. And when the time came and I got into these great schools, they're like, F off, Lorna. You have to go to West Point. They came up with this scheme about me going to West Point, and I didn't even know what West Point was, okay? And I looked into it, and they kept calling me. My Uncle Emil and my Uncle Brian would call me every morning, like 7 a.m., and harass me when I was at Angelo State University, telling me how, I was a drain on my mother's resources, that they weren't going to pay for me to go to medical school, and that I needed to go to West Point. So, in all of my 18-year-old wisdom, I thought, there's no way I would get in to West Point, because they have thousands. I think at the time they had like 35,000 applicants, and 1,000 get in, and not even 1,000 make it through. So I was like, there is no way that I'm gonna get in to West Point. So I'll fill out these forms to get them off my back. Well, that didn't work. I actually turned in the forms, and all of a sudden I have an interview with the Congressman Ralph Hall, in December. This was 1994. And I went to the interview, and of course I was the only girl there. And I remember there was this guy who was trying to get his son into the Air Force Academy, and he was like, do they even let girls into academies? Yeah, they had been for like 14 years by that time. Anyways, so I thought when I got done with that interview that, that they would never send me to West Point. And I ended up getting a letter the week later that I had the first nomination to West Point from Congressman Hall. And then I had like a secondary nomination from Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison. So anyways, that is how the jaws of the military closed around me. And my uncles, when they were telling me I had to go to West Point, they were threatening to take my mom's trust fund away from her. And I knew they meant it, right? And like my mom and my sister would call me crying, Lorna, why can't you just do this? Right? And of course they don't admit to this now. I've been really pissed at my sister. She's like, oh, I was only 14 years old. Yeah, well, I was only 18 years old, and you guys wanted to send me to the freaking wars to die. Oh, we didn't think that would happen. Okay, you guys are only thinking about yourselves. So it was just, I don't know, I've always just had to go like internally, right? Like my father was the only one who was affectionate in the family. And he's the one who used to beat the living hell out of me and tell me how fat I was and how I was not acceptable and all of these things, right? And he used to like really beat me, like bruises and, So, and my mom is a wonderful, sweet person, but she's not affectionate, right? Like if she hugs you, it's like a 2-finger hug kind of thing. So my sister and I talk about this all the time, how we're warped, right? And she's warped in another direction, like she goes after these guys that come after her are the same kind of asshole that comes after me, but like she puts up with it and I don't. Like I'm the person who's always leaving, right? And focusing on something else, right? Books and knowledge and singing and music, whatever I can do to kind of get myself out of the funk is what I've always done, right? So when my uncle started this nonsense, I even proved that this was real. In 2015, my mom had bought this house that we live in now, and we were going to put it on the trust so that Cassandra and I would inherit it. And my sister goes down to the lawyer's office and looks at the trust fund documents and brings it back. And my Uncle Brian is the benefactor to and also the executor of my mom's estate. Meaning, and my mom is older than him, and this bastard just died like 3 months ago. Hope he's in hell. But he was going to inherit all of my mom's stuff after all this time. So he meant it. If I hadn't gone to West Point, he would have taken everything. He had the power to do it. And that's what's even crazier is like my mom was so upset that my uncle married this gold digger who kept him, ugly gold digger too, I can't even see the point. Married this gold digger, and he had Alzheimer's. Now this is a few years ago. And he had Alzheimer's, so he shouldn't have been allowed to get married in the first place. He was supposed to leave me and my sister $1 million apiece because he's that kind of rich. Like, he has so much money and no children. Anyways, this woman married him and then marched him down to the lawyer's office and made him change the trust and everything, so we get nothing. And she and her children get everything. So I will have to work like a slave for the rest of my life. And, you know, these uncles that forced me into the military when I broke my neck and jaw, they never talked to me, they never said they were sorry, and they never gave me any money. And, like, I'm going to tell you what kind of money they have. They have a Top Fuel dragster that they race every weekend. My Uncle Brian built the car of the year in 1998. It was a Camaro. He spent $250,000 on the motor alone. In fact, he took me, this is in 1997, he took me out to this shop where he was having it built. And, you know, made fun of me the whole time because I actually went to Ohio to get the car from him that he was going to let me have my aunt's old, like, Ford Topaz or whatever. Mercury Topaz, I guess that's what it is. Anyway, so I get there, and he takes me out to see this car. He makes fun of me the whole time, saying, you know, you don't have any money, blah, blah, blah. And I leave Ohio without a car. That's the kind of people these people are, okay? Leave Ohio without a car, and I had 2 days to get to Texas. Actually 3 days to get to Texas, buy a car, and drive back to West Point. That's what my uncles are like. So, and it's not like things were better at West Point. It was pretty miserable. It's like prison for smart kids. And I was pretty depressed. I don't know, I've had a hard time in life just coping with things because I've been, you know, I feel like I've been trying to come out of a hole my whole life. What else? When I got married, 15 days into the marriage, he told me that I need to be brought down a few notches. And that was the gist of the entire marriage, right? As soon as I broke my neck and jaw, the I don't want a sick wife started. The I don't, you know, you're broken, I'm going to trade you in for a new model. All this nonsense, you know, withholding of all intimacy, hugs, everything. You know, he didn't touch me for 4 years. You know, and I used to ask about it, but I ended, and I tried to dress nice and look pretty, and he'd say, what are you wearing that for? We're just going to dinner. And I'd be like, oh, you know, you look really nice tonight. Talking to myself, because this is what I was dealing with. And so the reason why I'm telling you guys this stuff is because this world, to me, obviously I can be wrong, seems like a place where you're just constantly confronted by negative situations and negative people, like the whole demonic gang stalking thing. And it has just felt to me like a game, right? Like there's always someone or something messing with you, especially if like you have a good heart, right? Like I feel like the kinder and more gentle you are in your heart and soul, like the worse you have it in this life. And so I have just learned to be a bit mean, I would say, right? Like I'm really nice to myself and I'm really kind to people who are kind to me, but I don't put up with any bullshit anymore. I don't believe that anyone is ever going to change. Right? I figure as soon as they show me who they are, that's who they are, and I'm done. Right? In terms of hugs and things like that, I don't know, they say you can't live without at least a hug every few days or whatever. That's nonsense. I've been alive for many years without it. It hurts, you know. For a long time, I tried very hard to meet someone. It just has never worked out. I mean, it's just, I don't know, like the culture today is you meet a guy and he invites himself over to your house to drop off some dick. This is what love, quote unquote, is these days. And I don't want to be in a relationship and blah, blah, fucking blah. Well, you know what? My body is not your sperm toilet. Okay? It's not. I live here. This is my little temple. This is the only little temple I got, and I'm not going to let you use me. So, for me, it's just been the realization that whenever I'm alone, I'm actually happier than when I'm with someone who's not calling, not interested, treating me like trash. You know, basically some version of my father. I mean, that is all that's ever asked me out. You know, and they tell you that it's your fault and you need to do work on yourself. I've been working on myself like my whole freaking life, trying to change whatever's wrong with me that keeps attracting these crazy situations, right? And I've just kind of resolved to the fact that, you know what? This is just, it is what it is. It's what I expect from now on, you know, because I always had this, I think hope is nonsense. I've always had this hope, oh, there's got to be somebody out there who's decent. You know what? It just feels better to kind of just give up and just be okay, right? Like, I just decided, like, I cannot let this world and its nonsense dictate every freaking minute of my life to me and how miserable I feel, right? Because honestly, there are people who have it worse than I do, right? There's always someone who's got it worse than you. I mean, look at all the people wearing masks around. They got it worse than you. They may not know it, right? And those of us who are somewhat awakened, because I don't even know if we can be fully awakened in this world at all, because we're in a giant fishbowl, right? We're trapped. And our only way of surviving is, my way of surviving is to feel like there's something higher than me. And I'm not really talking about God, because I don't know. I think there is a God, but I don't know that we have direct access to him or her or whatever you want to call it. I feel like we're trapped here, and I've said this before in other videos. I feel like there's some sort of evil force, demons or fallen angels or whatever you want to call it, right? All the switch skeletons that rule over us. Something weird's going on here. And it's so weird and it's so preposterous that, like, I have a hard time taking it seriously anymore. And I guess that's also helpful for me. Like, I was listening to this song from 1926, you know, feminine women, masculine women, feminine men, which is the rooster, which is the hen. I mean, this is from it's hard to tell them apart today. This is from 1926. I mean, they have been putting this in our faces for so long. This is freaking clown world, right? This is clown world. And I don't know, like, I do better when I just think of things as being humorous, okay? Like, I go to this doctor this week 3 times, and there are these morons face down on the physical therapy table with a mask on. Like, it's already hard to breathe in those cradles, you know, those face cradles. And these people have masks on. And, you know, it can be sad or it can be amusing. Which one do you pick? And for me, I don't know. Maybe I have some of this mental illness that my uncle has, where he laughs uncontrollably. Who knows? That's part of it, I guess. You know, like, I just, you know. And then you see in the news, oh, wear some goggles, and I mean, it's bad, but it's also so ludicrous that it's funny, right? And they're trolling us, right? They're constantly trolling us. So that's another way, you know, just try to think of things as being a little more amusing, right? Realize that even though there are a lot of people out there who have a family, and, you know, I see a lot of my friends with their children, and it does make me feel a little sad in my heart. It makes me feel rejected, you know? Like, what's wrong with me? I mean, there are literally women who put babies in microwaves. Someone gave them a baby, right? I mean, if you think like that, though, right? If you think like that, that's just going to make you cry, right? So I try to switch it around and say, you know, I'm grateful I didn't bring someone into this world to suffer like I have, right? So just stuff like that. I think a lot of it's perspective, you know, and also, like I said it before in the other video, solutions, try to talk to like-minded people. And I feel like a lot of the like-minded people have been burned so much that they're really, I know I am, really reticent to even reach out. Like I call some of my friends and they don't call me back, and kind of hurts my feelings. And like I'm really afraid to even make new friends, because even a lot of the people that are in the truth, like we can't even get together or stay together. And I think it's kind of like people are very shell-shocked, right? Like this whole world is kind of like PTSD planet or PTSD plane. And I don't even know what I think about that. I know I don't feel any of this thousands of miles an hour that we're supposed to be turning and spinning and expanding at, right? I don't know, I remember being in college, you know, I took all these physics classes and nuclear reactor theory and all of that. And I remember thinking to myself, I wonder if they just made all this up. I remember when I was a little kid, when they started teaching about atoms, I think it was like in 4th grade, I told the teacher I didn't believe in atoms. Because, you know, science is our new religion, right? And they can say anything. Now science is even more, I think science is even more of an effective quote-unquote religion than, say, Islam or Christianity or any of them, right? They pretend that they did some sort of study, you know, and they paid for it, and they rig it. And then, you know, you're supposed to believe it. And it's the interesting thing is, like, with those articles that I put out the other day on the other video, there was a guy that was trolling me on LinkedIn and telling me I needed a tinfoil hat, so I posted an article, the one about the World Health Organization faking the swine flu pandemic, and I said, well, will a tinfoil hat protect me from another World Health Organization pandemic? You know, and he just replied back to me, more ad hominem attacks. And this is what this world is about. You know, that guy looked like Jabba the Hutt. I mean, if we were going to trade ad hominem attacks, I would destroy him. I would have told him to keep his mask on 24/7 until he didn't look like Jabba the Hutt anymore. Stop eating, fatty, as Cole Robinson would say. Snake diet, if you don't know that reference, which is actually a great way to lose weight. If you need to get weight off you fast, man, snake it out. Just get it off you. You'd be amazed. I lost like 26 pounds in 17 days last year. Just walking, not eating, drinking salt water. Super fast. And I've kept it off too. Anytime I feel myself creeping up, I just stop eating again and take off that 2 pounds that I gained. Anyways, we're talking about survival. I think it's important that those of us that are as awakened as you can be on this plane keep fighting, right? And keep posting things, trying to wake people up, talking about things. For me, like, we can talk about anything, because the truth eventually comes out, right? Truth doesn't require elaborate lies. So that's just kind of how I see things. Try to be strong, you know, and other days you can't be strong, then don't be strong. Cry. You know, I go take a bath. I'm someone who probably takes a bath every night of their life, sits in Epsom salts and relaxes. I don't know, I figure if the world is going to torture me, well, I'm going to treat myself right? And I eat the best food that I can afford, and I try to get as much sleep as possible. And I've learned to just cut people off. If people are negative towards you, and like you didn't deserve it, right? Like if you were doing something bad or whatever, and they corrected you, then I don't consider that being negative. But if someone's just a jerk, cut them out. If it's your father, I don't care. Like, I don't talk to my father. I will never speak to him again. You know? There are some people in this life that, I don't know, they were born here to like torture you. Maybe all this soulmate and reincarnation stuff is real, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know enough. And that's why I keep studying, trying to learn things. But it's good. Just cut out the bad people and be good to the nice ones. Hopefully some of the people that are towards the truth will warm up a little bit, because I do feel like a lot of us are cold. I know that I am skeptical of people very much, especially being burned so many times. Like, if you're like me and you see the skeletons that rule over us, the inverted skeletons, how can we just not get along? Like, you can't, if you can see that and I can see that, why can't we be friends, right? It's us against them. Everything else is just pales in comparison to this creature thing, whatever it is that rules over us. It's weird. It's just so freaking weird. Like I said, it's so weird that it's funny, you know? Like, that's another reason why it's so hard for me to take this realm seriously. It's so, you know, the world, like the planet. Look at these cows out here, you know? They're like living their good cow life. Why don't we get to live like that? We're just always being fucked with, right? So, anyways, I hope I answered that question somewhat well, or I don't know, gave you some thoughts to think about. Just hang in there. I think many people feel the same, right? You can look at social media and everyone posts how awesome they are. But if you look closely, you can see in their eyes that they're sad and that they're scared. And if they're wearing a mask, it's even worse, you know? And I don't know what the future holds except for more of this nonsense. But I guess my way of doing things is just keep studying, keep learning. Because I feel like maybe you can take your knowledge with you, you know? If we can get out of here, get out of this realm somehow. Get out of here and just go somewhere where we could be free. That's kind of my goal, right? I feel like this place is just, per Alex Jones, prison planet, right? Okay, well, I hope you have a good day and keep walking. Take care. Bye.